Hello, I'm Gisele Gambi, host of the Intuitive Pull podcast and business and life coach. My coaching business has consistently brought in $500,000 in revenue for the past 10 years, not from any external strategy, but from being the intuitive entrepreneur. Having worked strategy first, as most people do, with little results, I know that authenticity is profitable, and the deeper you go, the greater your wealth always. And so this podcast is here for you if you desire more, deserve more, and are called into more in relation to your wellness and purpose, business and career, finances, relationships, and health. If you're stuck, feel like you've lost your mojo, and equally if you're doing really well, but you know that you and your life could be so much bigger, so much more purposeful, and so much more impactful. Join myself and my guests as we explore 2024's theme, Untapped Abundance. I love creating ripples, and so here's to creating even more ripples this year for this wonderful intuitive pull community. Hello, intuitive pull community. It's great to be here again. It was my daughter's 13th birthday yesterday, and we had family dinner for Ruby Rose. And once everybody left for the night, I washed up, I had a shower, and then I went and sat on the couch. And when I sat on the couch, I just heard these words: when you have outgrown your identity and don't even know it until you do. And I grabbed my phone and I typed those words into my notes, not really knowing why. And then this morning I realized why. I was about to do a podcast interview with the amazing Jen Mitchell, and I joined some dots and realized that that statement was the actual title of that episode. So Jen and I recorded that episode this morning. And then straight after recording the episode, I felt quite inspired, and I felt inspired to write, and I wrote an article. And now I'm podcasting an episode based on what I wrote. So I expanded on that statement. When you have outgrown your identity and don't even know it until you do. The reason why I wanted to expand on it because it is the predominant conversation I'm having at the moment. It's the predominant experience that my clients in coaching are having. It's the predominant conversation that I'm seeing around me. And so it's in the air, and I thought that it would be valuable to write to it, to podcast about it, because if you can recognize that you are in the process of outgrowing your identity and you do know it, it's a whole lot more graceful to navigate the experience than being in the tumble dryer of this change. And so, yeah, my intention is to have you, if this is relevant to you, to have you recognize that this may be where you're at by me speaking to some of the symptoms and the precursors to meeting the next generation of you. So here are some symptoms that you may identify with and recognize yourself as experiencing, and that way you'll be able to see, wow, okay, I am outgrowing my identity and I recognize that. And if I'm outgrowing my identity, that means that there's a new version of me to become. So here we go. This is what I have experienced myself. This is what I've seen all around me as well. So number one, your focus is everywhere. Like there is so much to do. It's not like as if you have an absence of things to do. There is so much to do, but you find it really difficult to focus on the one thing. And you don't even know what to focus on. Your energy is frenetic. The words that came this morning when I was writing which I kind of liked, is that your energy is the personification of somebody who stutters. It's just so staccato. Nothing gets completed. And if it does, the energy that it's come from is racy and absent of presence. And so therefore you're setting up mistakes, you're setting up drama, unwanted drama, and peace is not in the house. So number one, your focus is everywhere. Number two, you feel anxious for no apparent reason. I have had this in the past when I've, been in that kind of transition, that period of transition where I didn't know I was in that period of transition, and all of a sudden I'd feel anxious for no apparent reason. And it randomly hits you and it has no reasonable explanation. So it might hit you whilst you're having lunch. It might hit you at shopping centers. It might hit you when you're with a client or at a family gathering. And then what's worse is you then become anxious about feeling anxious, which just exacerbates the whole experience. And, when you're experiencing anxiety of this level, I mean, you cannot be present. You just can't live and lead from presence, because anxiety is the complete opposite to being present. Having said that, I have also found in the past that when I have felt anxiety for no reason, I've come to know that, this is here actually to tell me something. It's either here to tell me that something's misaligned, or it's here to tell me that I'm about to step onto the doorstep of the next generation of myself. So that's pretty cool. When you can recognize that, you don't need to be at the mercy of the powerlessness and the chaos of feeling anxious, and then feeling anxious about feeling anxious. Number three, symptom or precursor, is that nothing you do, despite all your efforts, is moving the needle. So you have desire to move, you want to create, you want to achieve results. That desire is strong, although you might not necessarily know what to focus on, back to point number one. And your energy will be all frenetic, back to point number one. But you know that you deserve more. And so you want to move. But no matter what you do, very little is shifting or nothing is shifting. And you try everything. You try this way and you try that way. And then you come to a point of realizing same shit, different wrapper. And that's the place that you're making decisions from. So same shit, different wrapper, and where you're taking action from. And it's really common when you're in this, you're doing everything you can and nothing is moving the needle. It's really common to define your current reality as a failure. Number 4, symptom or precursor to recognizing that you've outgrown your identity. You feel like you've lost your mojo. So you've seen a version of yourself in the past that is confident, that is strong, that is driven, that is on purpose, that is savvy, that is a powerful creator, and someone who's achieved so much, amazing results, amazing impact, more than you had expected. So you've seen this version of you and you can't find them. You want to get back to that version of you, but that person feels illusory. It feels uncatchable, like they're nowhere to be seen. And subsequently, you're having experience of, I don't actually know who I am anymore. And self-doubt is really big. It kicks in. It kicks in when you can't find that version of you that, was one of triumph. You can't find that version of you. And not only self-doubt are present, but also a lot of comparison with others. It's not a very self-loving place to be. And finally, and I'm going to say that this doesn't necessarily be relevant for everybody, but this precursor is the precursor of chaos and drama. And I'm going to say that chaos and drama arrive only if you have not got with the program that the winds of change are here. Chaos and drama arrive only if you're not got with the program that you've outgrown your previous identity. And so chaos and drama are going to come to really shake things up and, rattle and roll and really make you pay attention. But as I said, if you're already paying attention, then chaos and drama probably won't necessarily be one of your precursors because you've already caught on. But if you haven't caught on and you're ignoring, the signs, chaos and drama will more than likely hit so that you get shaken up and you start to pay attention and get with the program. So they come in the form of stresses and strains in business, in relationships, in finances, in health, all the biggies that make us pay attention. So you would be experiencing conflict in relationships, strains in business, like constricted cash flow, the dreaded unexpected bills and taxes that you didn't know were hiding around the corner that then show up. And even from a place of health, you can start feeling unwell. You might start defining yourself as being depressed. You might feel that you need to go on medication. I mean, I work with a lot of people who come to me and tell me that that is where they've gone. And of course, this is a controversial thing to say because I have had people backlash at me for saying this, but most people will come off medication based on their own choice. I haven't done anything, haven't told them anything, because they've realized that it had nothing to do with their physical unwellness, but to do with what I'm now calling an identity that has now outdated itself. And another form of chaos that can happen in the context of health is unwanted diagnoses arrive. So you've heard me speak on the podcast before that some of the people that I work with are people who have cancer, and often cancer can be the catalyst to shake things up. And then once things have been shaken up, and once they have taken responsibility and cleaned their house up, then wellness in all ways arrives, which is a very precious experience. So as I said, when you can see your current reality for what it is, I think that is one of the most freeing experiences. You still might not be, well, you won't be through to the other side. You won't have met the next generation of you. You won't have shed. But when you can see current reality for what it is, it actually is freeing to be able to see that's why that's happening. Oh, it's because I've outgrown a version of myself that is no longer required. And there's a new version of myself that's on the doorstep. Oh, there's a sense of presence. There's a sense of peace, even in the chaos. And there's a sense of freedom, just knowing that contextually where you are at in your life is one of change. I remember when I was experiencing a lot of chaos in my business in 2011, 12, and then 13. And then I had a coach reach out to me and she said, do you want to have a conversation? I feel like something's up. And I said, oh yeah, something is so up. I'm not doing well. and I was not doing well in all ways. And when we got on Zoom, she said to me, "You're in chaos." I went, "Oh, I'm in chaos. Can you believe it?" And I felt relieved to know where I was at. So that's one of the reasons why I'm recording this podcast, is because I know that this is a really predominant experience in people's lives at the moment. If this can give you some kind of relief, oh, that's what's happening, right? Well, then I've done my job. That's why I have recorded this podcast. So I meditated on Monday, and I had an amazing, amazing question arrive in meditation. I adore this question. I've shared it many times this week, and it has a lot of power and potency. And it's extremely telling. And so the reason why I'm going to pose this question to you is that if this podcast episode has been for you, and you now can say, "Oh, that's where I'm at," if you hadn't recognized it already, that the way that you can actually step on, it's like, when I'm with this question in this moment with you, what I see is a travelator. It's like this question will allow you to step onto that travelator and have you start moving into the process that you need to go into in order for you to move into the next generation of who you are, in order for you to see the next generation of who you are, in order for you to decide to be in the next generation of you and to integrate and embody the next generation of you. So the question is this: what do you have energy for? And what has energy for you? I love that question. What do you have energy for? And what has energy for you? When that question arrived in meditation this week, and I've been with it a few times over this week, it has actually brought me to tears. And especially the second part of that question, and what has, even now I can feel it, and what has energy for me, it brings me to tears in the best of ways. What do I have energy for? And what has energy for me? Ask yourself that question. Meditate on that question. It will put you on that travelator, and you will start to move into the process that needs to occur in order for you to embody the next generation of who you are to become. Now, notice that what's inherent in that question, what do I have energy for and what has energy for me? Inherent in that question is, what do I no longer have energy for? And what no longer has energy for me? What do I no longer have energy for? And what no longer has energy for me? Again, that question is almost bringing me to tears in this moment with you here recording this podcast. And it always seems to be the second part of the question that gets me. And what no longer has energy for me? It's extremely telling. Meditate on those questions, because they will start to take you to the places that you have to go. And you have to go to these places in order to let go of the version of you, the identity that you have been, that you are now outgrowing, and a new version of yourself who you are to become. You have to go to these places. In my experience, you have to go to these places. And the reason why you have to go to these places is because you need to have more freedom. You can't become the next generation of you with the same level of freedom that has brought you into the generation of who you have already been. That's bloody profound, I have to say. That just came to me just then. So let me say that again. You have to have more freedom, because the freedom that you have now has created the version of you that exists today, and is not the freedom that you have to have in order to enter the next generation of yourself. If Meg listens to this episode, which I hope she does, I know you're going to love that one. That's something that you would say. So in order to have more freedom, this is where you'll have to go. You're going to have to go into the shadowy parts of yourself. You're going to have to go to those places that you have turned away from, consciously or not. The places that have been blind to you, that you didn't even know were there. You're going to have to go into the shadowy parts of yourself. You're also going to need to enter the caves that you have feared. You know that quote by Joseph Campbell, "The treasure you seek to find is in the caves you fear to enter." The caves you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. You're going to have to enter those caves. You're going to have to listen a lot. I have been listening. I knew that I had outgrown my identity at the end of, and version of myself at the end of 2022. I knew it. I knew that 10-year growth cycle and who I had become, I knew that it was coming to a close, and that I was about to commence my journey into the next generation of myself. And I am in the next generation of myself. And this is why I'm speaking to what I am from a place of authority, because I have traveled these places and I have listened a lot, probably more than I have in a long, long time. That listening is going to give you a lot. It's going to reveal a lot, and it's going to take you to places that you would not have expected. It's certainly taken me to places that I didn't expect. I mean, look at the question that arrived this morning through my listening. Not this morning. Look at the question that arrived on Monday through my listening. What do you have energy for, and what has energy for you? Look at my listening last night. I've just done all the stuff that I needed to do for the day. It was a great afternoon. We surprised my daughter with an e-bike. It was extremely exciting. She was so happy. We had a beautiful family dinner. I'd worked, by the way, yesterday prior to all of that. I wash, my husband and I wash up, we clean up, I have a shower, I put my pajamas on, about to turn on the television. And the words that have created this episode arrive out of nowhere, when you have outgrown your identity and don't even know it until you do. You have to listen a lot. And you'll need to let go of any identities that you have attached yourself to. You'll need to let go of any identities that you believe are who you are and only who you are. You'll have to let go of identities that have really worked for you. When we went to Tasmania about a month ago with the first cohort of sacred leaders, this was a big part of the conversation. Letting go of identities that absolutely loved us and supported us and created so much goodness, but now had passed their use-by date and were no longer required. So you'll need to have the freedom to be able to say, thank you, but it's no longer required, to create space for the new. And finally, you'll need to see, and this will come at a certain point in the process, not in the beginning, you'll need to see that everything up until this point had to happen for your expected arrival. More words came to me last week. I can't remember what I was doing actually at the time. I think it was in the morning, and the words "that had to happen" arrived. And I knew I needed to presence those words. And so I got my laptop out and I wrote, and I'm going to show you something, show and tell today. I wrote out "that had to happen." All of my had to happens from about November 2022, when I knew that I had now outgrown my identity of who I'd known myself to be over the past, particularly 10 years. And thus my process began. All the places that I've spoken about to you on this podcast, all the places that I needed to go to, for me to arrive in a new era of my own sacred leadership, for me to arrive in a creative agency that I've never met before, for me to arrive into such clarity and into an energy, again, words that I'd never used before, to enter into the fire of the dragon. I've got the fire of the dragon within me that is coursing through me, and there literally is not enough time in the day for me to do all the things that I want to do. And I will do them, but yeah, it's there's so much creative energy running through me at the moment. And for me to express myself with more freedom than I have before. For example, being on the video podcast, which I had resisted for years. It was a no-go zone. And there's a whole lot other creative adventures and ventures I'm about to put my energy to. None of that would have happened had I resisted and attached to who I had been for the past 10 years, had I attached to how I had done things for the past 10 years, had I attached to for what I thought I was in service, or not what I thought I was, for what I was in service to in the past 10 years. None of that would have happened. So I really hope, in my heart right now is such intention for those for whom this podcast is for, such intention that I have spoken to your hearts, such intention that you've said, oh my God, she's speaking to me. Such intention that you'll say, okay, I can now be here. I can accept where I am, and I can surrender into these winds of change and into my becoming. No wonder the theme Untapped Abundance for 2024 arrived at the end of last year. No wonder. The untapped abundance of who we already are and the untapped abundance of who we are becoming. No wonder. The untapped abundance of what I have energy for and the untapped abundance of what has energy for me. I'm actually having a moment with you live here of awe and wonder at the power of intuition. Because when those words arrived at the end of last year, because I was driving along at North Head Harbour Reserve in the bush, and I saw a kangaroo tail, the plant, the kangaroo tail, which normally points vertically upwards to the sky, point directly at me like an arrow. And then the words Untapped Abundance arrived. I didn't know what they meant then. I knew that they were for me and for us, but I didn't know what they meant. But I'm beginning to now. And I hope you are too. Thanks for being with me. Cha-cha. Hey guys, if you love this podcast, I have 2 requests. Number 1, sign up to the newsletter, which you can find in the show notes. Sharing is one of my superpowers, and there is only so much that I can share through the medium of podcasting. And I have very big plans this year to be radically generous to you. So sign up to that newsletter where you'll be able to receive a whole lot more that I trust will be super valuable to you. And number 2, I'm a massive referrer of the people I love to the people I love. Please share this episode or podcast with the people you love, and let's create some more breathtaking ripples of impact.